Welcome back, and moving on to our second segment of today, talking about tourism industry and how Egypt is supporting, promoting tourism industry in the African countries. Over the phone, we have Mr. Taha. He's an Egyptian tour guide. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. So first of all, I would like you to tell us more about how Egypt is helping and promoting the tourism in the African countries.
As we know, about 4 days ago, the foreign minister of Guinea, he had an interview and meeting with Mr. Dr. Anani, the tourism and antiquities minister of Egypt, and they've been discussing about how we can help Guinea in, kind of developing and progressing their tourism field, and how we can send some expertise and some, special people who are working in tourism field here in Egypt to help in tourism sectors in Guinea. This is very important because we used to have a lot of tourists, especially when we had direct flight between Cairo and Johannesburg in South Africa. That was very important, and we used to receive a lot of tourists from South Africa and from Kenya. Also, a few tourists from Nigeria. We need to regain again all these sectors and all these relations between Egypt and African countries, especially as you know, now we are heading to get our relation back. As we know in general, tourism sector and tourism industry, it is a kind of sensitive industry. It is affected by many factors, political factors, social factors, economical factors, etc. That's why we need to make it like a kind of package to facilitate all these factors and to get it back. I mean, look at Zanzibar in Tanzania. There are a lot of tourists going there. If we make a kind of cooperation and a kind of completion between what Tanzania or Zanzibar have and what we have here, and we can create a kind of program, a combined program between Egypt and Tanzania, also between Egypt and Kenya, and also Egypt and Guinea, because all these African countries, they have a type of tourism different than that we have. We have safari tourism and the wild forest and different from that we have. We have a lot of factors different than we have there in those African countries.
Well, of course, this is of great importance, especially when it comes to the relation between Egypt and the African countries. And if I'm talking about how the African continent in general is rich with many different things, actually, whether I'm talking about resources or potentialities, definitely we know that the African countries are rich with this. So, talking about their chances and potentialities in the future, and how can we work more on this?
Yeah, as I told you, we need to create a kind of programs that include what we have of tourism.
What can we put in this, sir, excuse me, what can we put specifically in this program? I mean, talking about points of attraction in particular, not in general.
Yeah. We need to create at the beginning first flight. I mean, airlines flight between both countries and Egypt, and it must be direct flight, because if I travel as a tourist, I need to be easy for me to travel. For example, from France or from England, I head to Cairo, and then from Cairo I head to any other country in Africa. And as we know, Egypt is the main entrance to Africa. We are in the north and east side of Africa, and we have all the factors that we need to develop this sector, especially in those African countries that we have a kind of sightseeing different than those kind of sightseeing that we have in Egypt. We can also consider those sightseeing as a kind of part of our program. I mean, our tourism program. I mean, we can arrange a program, a tourism program here in Egypt, heading the cultural sites and the sightseeing and also the resort sites like in Sharm el-Sheikh and Sinai. And then the other part of the program can be in other African countries like in Guinea or in Kenya or Tanzania. This will help a lot to promote and to market those programs all over the world, especially some people looking to see the natural wildlife like in those forests in Africa.
Right. Sir, talking also about the challenge that we have right now in the whole world when it comes to COVID-19 pandemic, and how definitely this is the first or one of the most important challenges when it comes to traveling in the world in general. So how are we going to work on this again? Yes, in Egypt actually we achieved a lot in this respect, and we have seen that we started to receive tourists in different Egyptian destinations, and how we were able to contain and to have the best hygiene, if we can describe it as this, because this is what was described by the whole world when they talked about Egypt and the procedures taken by Egypt. So how can we follow the same when it comes to promoting tourism between Egypt and the African countries as well?
Thank God that the African countries registered the lowest percentage of people affected by this pandemic. And this is very important. We can promote it around the world. And as other countries started, and here in Egypt also, we started to get the vaccine, that will help a lot. And the pandemic will not last all the time. I think this year, hopefully, will be finished. And we, all of us, will go back to our normal life and natural life. So this will going to help in the tourism field a lot. And we have some tourists in the resort sites, and some of them they travel to Luxor to see the sightseeing, and some others they travel from Hurghada to Cairo. I can tell you that at least we receive between 6 to 10 buses daily from Hurghada to Cairo. They do what we call it one-day trip. They visit the Egyptian Museum and the other places like the pyramids of Giza or Saqqara. And they do, from the same tourists, they do another one-day trip from Hurghada to Luxor. This is very important as a start, and we started with that along, almost 7 months ago. And nowadays we have a lot of local tourism in Luxor and in Aswan. That will help in this field and will gain again that field in general, because if you start with the local tourism, you will attract the international and the foreign tourism in general. All the regulation and precaution was done, measured by international specialists, and they said Egypt is very safe, especially this regarding the COVID-19. And this as was announced in different websites and different news sites and magazines that are specialized in tourism, and they choose Egypt as a very secure and very safe destination for tourism in general. That's very important news that we received about a couple of months ago.
Mr. Sayed Taha, Egyptian tour guide, thank you very much for joining us. I'm moving on to a short break, then we'll be back on The Breakfast Show.